Have you been drinking anything today?
No, I hadn't drank in 3 years.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah. Until today.
Woo! Get some! All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and experiment with you guys. Loads of news ahead. Luckily, you've got us, okay? So we're gonna tell you what it is and we're gonna give you the correct analysis of it, whether people like it or not. All right, Casper.
Well, a lot of mask-off moments for Trump supporters, prominent figures who orbited Donald Trump after the 2020 election, including Gina Ellis. So why don't we start with her?
What we're continuing to do is to fight by every legal and constitutionally appropriate method to make sure that we preserve and protect election integrity. And we know that at least 6 states violated their rules in the administration of the 2020 election. We can't allow corruption to prevail, because if cheating and cheaters prosper, then we'll never have free and fair elections again in this country.
That's former Trump advisor Jenna Ellis back in 2020, as she was spreading all sorts of lies about the 2020 presidential election. Of course, she perpetuated this notion that the election was stolen from Donald Trump, that there was widespread voter fraud. She decided to repeat and regurgitate all sorts of lies. And I'm not the one who's simply saying that she's a liar. In fact, she's the one who has admitted that she's a liar. In fact, she had to go before a judge because of her violation of Colorado Rule of Professional Conduct 8.4. The rule in Colorado states that lawyers cannot engage in conduct involving dishonesty, fraud, deceit, or misrepresentation. And when she was before that judge, she acknowledged that she lied not once, not twice, but 10 separate times in regard to the 2020 election. Let me give you some of those details. Apparently, respondent agrees she made the following 10 misrepresentations. On November 13th, 2020, respondent claimed that Hillary Clinton still had not conceded the 2016 election. That was a lie, and she admitted as such. On November 20th of 2020, respondent appeared on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business and stated, quote, "We have affidavits from witnesses, we have voter intimidation, we have the ballots that were manipulated. We have all kinds of statistics that show that this was a coordinated effort in all of these states to transfer votes from votes either from Trump to Biden to manipulate the ballots to count them in secret." That was a lie. She admitted as such before a judge. Let me give you more. On December 5th of 2020, respondent appeared on Justice with Jeanine Pirro on Fox News and stated, quote, "We have over 500,000 votes in Arizona that were cast illegally." That was a lie. You guys are getting the point, right? So forward facing, she'll lie all day, every day. But once she realizes that it could hurt her ability to practice law because she's breaking rules pertaining to lawyers, well, then all of a sudden she'll admit that she's been lying.
Yeah, So now I want to clarify. She says, no, I didn't admit that I was lying. You're gonna love this, admitted instead that her actions violated, quote, her duty of candor to the public. Candor means honesty. So if you violated your duty of being honest to the public, how is that not lying? These guys are hilarious, okay? By the way, the judge noted there was 2 aggravating factors here. 1, that she had a selfish motive, and that 2, she engaged in a pattern of misconduct. In other words, she would not stop lying, and it was to get paid. When you're a lawyer, I know it seems funny to us because lawyers often aggressively represent their own side, whether it appears to be true or not, but you have a duty not to lie. And so here's a person who said, at least on those 10 occasions, that she purposely was not honest with the audience, right? And so what I'm curious about is the MAGA guys, right? Do they look at this and go, man, do they think I like that she lied to me before and I don't like it that she's being honest now? Or do they think, no, she's lying now about lying? Why would she implicate herself? I don't get it. And or do they think like, yeah, I mean, she's admitted that she's lied. Sidney Powell has admitted in court that she's lied, and Sidney Powell has said, no reasonable person would have believed me. Yet you guys still believe them. So I just genuinely don't get it. I know for some it's an easy explanation. They're in a media bubble, and so they've never heard any of this stuff, and they might never hear it in their whole lives that Trump's lawyers have admitted to lying, right? In court. And a lot of them have never even heard that Trump lost every single case, over 60 cases. A lot of them have never heard that he didn't present one piece of evidence that the election was stolen. But for the ones that did hear it, God, it reminds me of fundamentalist religious folks, that no matter what you say, they always have some nonsensical circular argument. Well, I mean, obviously it's because the deep state and Antifa and their sightseers, and so that's why her lying to us is actually true. Okay, whatever gets you through the night.
For some folks, power is something they place above all else. So is there a portion of the Republican constituency that knows what the truth is, but they like the lies, they want to further the lies because they want power? This is the way they see their ability, their possibility of remaining in power. I mean, I just think in this current political system with an incredibly pathetic, embarrassing, and weak Democratic Party, how about you guys actually use democracy to your advantage instead of enabling this whiny crybaby, right?
Anna, that's such a great point.
I just don't get it. But let me finish my point. But yeah, for some people, power is everything, and they are willing to throw democracy away in order to maintain power or in order to maintain the person they prefer in the White House. But I mean, there are better things in life than having your favorite guy in the White House. I guarantee it. And I would argue that maintaining our democracy and democratic process is far more important than one particular figure that you love so much.
Well, there's 2 things about that. Number 1, is he your favorite guy? You think he's your favorite guy because of the lies he's told. But in reality, has he actually served you in any way? I mean, look, and I'm super fair to the right wing, he says. Okay, but listen guys, seriously, I get it. You like that he bashes the libs and he owns the libs. You like that he wanted to build a wall. There's a bunch of things that he says that you like, right? And I know that he hates the establishment and you hate the establishment. And here, brother, I get that, right? But what did he deliver? You think you like him. But all he delivered was a $2 trillion tax cut to the rich.
No, here's what he delivered, and it's clearer and clearer to me, because in the absence of a political system that actually represents the best interests of the American people, the only thing that voters can look forward to is the blood sport, right? Which is why for some portion of Republican voters, triggering the libs, owning the libs is everything. Because that's the only satisfaction they can really get out of this broken, dysfunctional, corrupt system.
Yeah, and so look, 2 things. One is that ironically, the right wing would actually get a bunch of the things that they want if the left wing wins. We would get you higher wages, which you definitely want. We would get your family health care that you want, paid family leave. Oh, do Republicans really want that? Yeah,
Yeah, but they don't believe it.
3/4 of Republicans say we would love paid family leave when we have a baby because we care about family values and et cetera, right? But the right wing and Donald Trump will never deliver that to you. So you're valuing
neither will the Democrats, Jake.
No, that's definitely true, but hold on. His fake lies, you value more than actually delivering the things that you want. That's amazing to me. But I want to go back to Anna's great point. Look, right wing, I don't want to help you out because I think all you're going to do is help the rich, okay? But if you wanted to win in this country, it's actually so simple for you guys. For the left, it's near impossible because of all the institutional forces against us, mainly corporate media. But for you guys, all you have to do is stop being nuts and you're gonna win in a landslide. The Democrats are the weakest party in American history. They never delivered, they're a bunch of corporate goons, right? All the right wing would have to, and policies I don't even agree with, I don't agree with the right wing's policies at all. But if they just stop weirdly lying and saying that votes don't count and screw democracy and let's destroy America and the government and do a national, if you stop being nuts, you would actually easily win. But so I don't know if I'm supposed to be happy that you're nuts, but I'm worried. I'm worried for the country. I'm worried for you guys. I'm worried about this enabling fascism. Please regain your sanity, and ironically, it'll help you win.
So what ended up happening with this situation with Ellis before a judge? Was she disbarred? Was there any real consequence? No, there wasn't. So there's no justice in the world. So she lied, she admitted to lying, and the judge stopped short of suspending or disbarring her. This is the former senior, this is Jenna Ellis's statement. This was politically motivated from the start, from Democrats and never Trumpers. They ultimately failed to destroy me and failed in their attempt to, we didn't even know who you were, bitch. Like none of us knew who Jenna Ellis was. Oh yeah, it reminds me of all of those athletes that are like lauded and like everyone sees these athletes as heroes and then they win the Super Bowl or they win some playoff championship, whatever it is. Like, no one thought we could do it. No one thought we could do it. No, everyone thought you can do it, okay? Everyone thought you can do it. Jenna Ellis is like we're sitting around thinking about Jenna Ellis like, ooh, how can we destroy her? No one cares about you, no one even knew who you were until you started spouting off all these ridiculous election lies. I just can't with these people, it's exhausting.
Yeah. All right, guys, but hey, listen, I don't know if you're pro Jenna Ellis now or anti-Jenna Ellis. I don't know if you believe words, if you don't believe words, but there she is in open court saying, yeah, I repeatedly lacked honesty in my communications.
I lied to the people who trusted me. That is what she admitted to. And I'm just gonna end with graphic 9 here. Because even though I don't really like Ann Coulter, I do appreciate this tweet. Item for the resume. Jenna Ellis denies lying about election fraud, which she notes requires intentionally making false statement. So not a criminal, just a bimbo.
Yeah, and look, Ann Coulter asked the same question I'm asking, which is, Trump voters, do you like being lied to? What a weird thing that you like it. And what an insane world that I have to agree with Ann Coulter on that one thing. She's actually in a lot of ways more hateful than Trump. She's like the epicenter of hateful, but she hasn't lost her sanity. Isn't that an interesting distinction?
No, she's crazy. Like, let's
no,
not.
No, she's
we
crazy.
We don't need to go too far here, okay?
No, but she's crazy in her opinions, Anna. But she's not detached from reality and thinks that the ghost of Hugo Chavez, rigged elections, right, and 99% of the world's doctors are morons and don't know anything, and rigged vaccines and thermometers and all this stuff. So she's just a normal hateful person. Hey, Republicans, why don't you just return to that?
I can't.
Again, you'd still win.
Yeah, remember the quaint times in America when Ann Coulter was considered the worst of the worst?
Yeah, now we're like lauding her for being an awful person that just hasn't lost her mind. That's the bar for Republicans these days.
All right, speaking of Republicans who have, well, publicly seems like they've lost their minds, but privately very different. So let's get to Tucker Carlson.
Another quote from your book, Bill O'Reilly's success is built on the perception that he really is who he claims to be. If he ever gets caught out of character, it's over.
That's right.
That was Tucker Swanson McNear Carlson back in 2003 talking to C-SPAN about Fox News host Bill O'Reilly. And while he seems to be critical of O'Reilly in what you're about to hear, later it's very clear that he took O'Reilly's career as an instructive path for his own. Let's watch.
I say before that Bill O'Reilly's really talented. He's more talented than I am. He's got a lot more viewers than I do. He's a better communicator than I am. But I think there's kind of a deep phoniness at the center of his shtick. And again, as I say, the shtick is sort of built on this perception that he is the character he plays. He is every man. This kind of he's not right wing. He's a populist. This kind of Irish Catholic populist fighting for you against the powers that be. And that's great as a shtick. But I'm just saying, the moment that it's revealed not to be true, it's over. The moment he gets caught, slapping a flight attendant on the Concorde for not bringing his champagne fast enough, or barking at, one of his subordinates to take the, brown M&Ms out of my bowl and get me a bottle of Evian, or something like that. The second that makes page 6, it's over, right? Because the whole thing is predicated on the fact that he is who he says he is, and just nobody is that person, especially not someone who makes $1 million, or many millions a year.
Fascinating that he had such strong thoughts about the faux populism of Bill O'Reilly, considering Tucker Carlson's engaging in a lot of that himself these days. I know you have a lot to say about this, Cenk.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never seen anyone tell on him on a future self as much as he did there. So look, Tucker Carlson, we've said this many times on the show, is an interesting cat because he has done something that is very premeditated. He's not like a lot of the other right-wing hosts. As crazy as Glenn Beck is, I think he believes the things that he is saying. I think he's genuinely nuts. Alex Jones is massively nuts and genuinely so, etc. Now there's tons of things that Beck and Jones and others lie about, but they generally are actually conservative and believe all those things, right? Tucker Carlson is very premeditated. He is copying Donald Trump and his actions almost exactly, like he's following a manual. We've told you about that dozens of times, right? And we've shown you examples of it. Here's what Trump does, here's what Tucker has done afterwards. This shows you the original manual. Before he copied Donald Trump, he copied Bill O'Reilly. So at some point within these last 20 years, that was exactly 20 years ago, he realized, wait, Bill O'Reilly's a better communicator than me, makes tens of millions of dollars per year. Why don't I just do what he's doing, right? So I'll develop a deep phoniness. The one thing he was wrong about in that clip, the only thing, was if you get caught, it's over.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I mean, back then, maybe. The standards, Americans had higher standards back then. And I think Americans today love to be lied to as long as the ones who are lying to them are members of their preferred political tribe. That's it.
Yeah, I think that, so look, all the other things, he says, be a fake populist. That'll work. That's exactly what he did, right? He's the heir to the Swanson fortune. He said in that clip, I mean, if you make like $1 million a year, first of all, he said no one is populist like that. And especially if you make that kind of money, you're not a populist. He makes way more. Yep. And that's him saying, of course I'm not a populist. It's a shtick, it's a shtick. But I think that the last cherry on top is what Anna was referring to. Look, Tucker at some point realized, and you can almost see it, and we almost trace it for you guys like a CSI scene. About a couple of years ago, maybe about 3 years ago or something, he decided, oh, you're not gonna get caught. Oh, I could say anything on air, they'll believe it. They'll never question me. As long as I'm feeding them the fake populism, the red meat that they want. Oh, the immigrants are the problem. They're trying to replace you. Your culture is sacred and these people are gonna make it dirty, et cetera, et cetera. Once he gave him that pill, then he realized, oh, I'm above the law. It doesn't matter that I'm fake. It doesn't matter that I'm a giant liar. None of it matters. They'll believe everything I say. Look at what Trump did. They believed everything he said.
Even if he doesn't mean what he's saying, even if he's lying, you also have to keep in mind that he is providing publicity, PR for a certain type of ideology in the country, and just having that represented makes people happy.
Oh, for sure.
So, let's just keep it real. So when we talk about like, oh, but don't you hate being lied to? No, they don't care because they want to further what his message is. He is furthering their message, right?
Yeah, and if you're a lib, don't get too happy because listen, guys. I've called the news anchors on cable and television news actors for now like a couple of decades, right? And so you think Anderson Cooper is not a news actor? He's the heir to the Vanderbilt fortune. So he comes on and tells his version of the story, and his version of the story is corporations are great, the status quo is perfect, nothing should be changed, don't worry about the rich, don't worry about the powerful, etc. So all of these guys are actors. They almost all their personas are characters that are shtick. So that's why, like, yeah, Tucker is the worst of them because he does what Anderson Cooper won't do. Anderson Cooper gives you a very misleading story framed completely in a twisted way with omissions and acts of commission as well. But mainly, he doesn't take facts and reverse them. Tucker goes the extra mile because he knows right-wingers don't mind that at all. Like for the left, if you see an outward lie that really bothers you, and you don't like it if Joy Reid or Anderson Cooper does that. But if you never know that they left out the most relevant facts, I mean, the example I always use is Jake Tapper says a study by a university showed that Medicare for all costs $32 trillion. Now, if you saw that, he's not lying, there was such a study, it was at a university, but he left out that it's Koch brothers funded, and even they found out that it saves you $34 trillion. So those are giant lies by omission, purposely meant to deceive you into being against a policy that you love. So those guys trick you against what you want. To be fair to Tucker Carlson, he tricks you in a way the right-wingers do want. They want him to play that character, and he plays it brilliantly.
All right, so do you want to get to some of this other stuff? Because dude's worth around $30 million, okay? His yearly salary is between $8 and $10 million. He's also, of course, the heir to the Swanson fortune. So like, how much money do you need? I don't really understand it, but okay, fine. And during his appearances on Bubba the Love Sponge, but back in 2008 and 2009, he blatantly admitted that he is in fact an elitist and very proud of it. Let's watch.
One thing you learn when you grow up in a castle and look out across the moat every day at the hungry peasants out in the village is you don't want to stoke envy among the proletariat.
How do you pay your bills?
Well, I'm like extraordinarily loaded just from like money I inherited from my number of trust funds.
From the Swanson.
Totally.
From the Swanson deal. You're just living. You're a trust fund baby, are you not?
No, completely. I've never needed to work. Yeah. I mean, it's all just the whole cable news thing was just a total pose. It was like a phase I was going through.
You're about the most unordinary person I know. You're an elitist. You're an ass.
No. But see, I'm an out of the closet elitist. I don't run around pretending to be a man of the people. I'm absolutely not a man of the people at all.
He certainly pretends to be the man of the people these days. That's his whole shtick on Fox News now, going back to what he accused Bill O'Reilly of doing. And he has even admitted on the record that he lies on his show. He lies to his audience, and he said as much during a conversation with Dave Rubin.
Well, I guess I would ask myself, like, I mean, I lie. If I'm really cornered or something, I lie. I really try not to. I try never to lie on TV. I just don't, I don't like lying. I certainly do it, out of weakness or whatever.
Just notice the Roosevelt dead framed article behind him because he's a piece of crap. Absolute garbage person. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he's like out of a movie. He's like the girl with the dragon tattoo. He's the rich guy who's got people tied up and just likes fascism, likes dominating other people and oppressing them. And so he admitted to you there, he's a giant elitist, an heir to a fortune. He's the least populist guy in the world. And then he turned around and pretended to be a populist because he's having fun and he wants to seize power and oppress everyone else. He's one of the sickest people I've ever seen in my lifetime. But hey, if you look up to that and you think a guy who brags about lying to me and playing a character, the guy who said in the documents that we have definitively now that he didn't believe Trump, he thought Trump was a demonic monster, he has no regard for his audience, and by the way, he did the same exact thing as O'Reilly that he mentioned in that tape, which is barking at subordinates, he said. And in his case was to get a reporter at Fox News fired for telling the truth. So if that's what you like, there's literally nothing I can do for you. Please get help.
When we come back, we'll talk about the US ambassador to Israel pushing for war with Iran. Pretty disastrous. And later we'll get to more news, including the record amount of debt that Americans have accumulated in a very short period of time. That and more coming right up.
And then like Tucker comes on and just screams like, what's going on?
Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to members at TYT.com. No cuckoos for you, Jenna Ellis. None at all, not even a crumb. Yeah, especially because she says in court, I'm a giant liar, so please don't disbar me. Then she comes out and goes, no, I'm not. The judge should go back and go, now you're disbarred.
No, but there's no justice in the world.
I know. D. Daly says she was only censured and not barred because she only lied to the public, not a court or a judge. That is actually fair, and another mitigating factor was that she has nothing else on her record. Okay, so those are your two sides, and that's why part of the reason why she was not disbarred. Post-traumatic South disorder says Maria Bartiromo hosts a crime scene. It's true. Almost everyone on her show at the time were giant liars, which she happily distributed to everyone else. She's mentally completely unhealthy. Look, half the crew at Fox News and Fox Business are, in my opinion, clinically deranged and need professional help. And I'm not at all exaggerating. And I think the other half are just actors, and it's a shtick for them, and they think you guys are suckers, and they just make tens of millions of dollars tricking right-wingers, which unfortunately are the easiest people in the world to trick.
I have a question on a story that just broke. So New York Times reporting that Trump is likely to face a criminal indictment. Likely, and I think this is pertaining to the Stormy Daniels situation.
Yeah.
Like, how many times are we gonna play this game,
Yeah,
New York
I'm
Times?
so
How many times?
sick.
How many times?
And how many times are you gonna give that loser prosecutor Bragg in Manhattan false marketing for almost gonna do something he should have done 6 years ago? And he wasn't in charge 6 years ago, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Years and years and years ago, he should have filed these most obvious charge in the world. His co-conspirator already went to prison for it. And boy, he might, oh, Alvin Bragg, oh, what a tough prosecutor. Like 17 years from now, when Trump is 112, he might get him. Everybody vote for the Democrat. Oh, shut up already. Yeah. Please, New York Times, just shut it. You see, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the lies of corporate media. They don't technically lie. They have a source. The quote is accurate, right?
Right.
But the omission in that context is, we've said this to you 2,000 times. It's never been true, and we're not gonna tell you now that this guy is a giant phony who's told you the same load of crap 2,000 times and never done anything. But hey, I wouldn't want you to be a reporter or anything at the New York Times. Okay, Kate Nix on a much lighter note says, Cenk and Anna, it's my birthday, can I get a shout out?
Happy birthday,
Kate Nix. Just Jim says, Anna, what MAGA voters do not realize is at this point, autocrats will take their power too. Of course. They love giving their bananas to the dictator who's just gonna take them all. He's not gonna give them back to you, you morons. Anyway, sorry. Progressive Alaskan says, no, I'm with Anna, referring to Coulter. She is crazy and using her crazy to sway the narrative. All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, and so is Amity Daydream that just became a member. Thank you, we appreciate it. Hit the join button below the video on YouTube and you become one of us and help us bring out honest reporting to America. All right, Casper.
The American ambassador to Israel has unfortunately been encouraging possible war with Iran. Now, Iran, of course, is an adversary to Israel. And now dozens of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are calling on President Joe Biden to not only condemn the statements, but clarify what United States foreign policy is in response to Iran. Now, US Ambassador to Israel, Tom Nides, told both the Conference of Presidents of Major Jewish American Organizations that, quote, Israel can and should do whatever they need to deal with Iran, and we've, meaning the United States, got their back. And later repeated the statement or sentiment at the Institute for National Security Studies. Now, the progressive NGOs, 45 of which wrote this letter to Joe Biden, again want to have the president clarify that we are not in any way encouraging Israel to engage in a war with Iran. I want to read you a few excerpts, including this. It's critical that you clarify that these comments do not reflect US policy toward Iran for the sake of regional stability, future diplomacy, and respect for Congress's constitutional responsibility for war powers. We are concerned the Israeli government will perceive these remarks as tacit approval for military action, even when such action most likely will damage US national security interests, further embroil our military in regional conflict, and prevent future diplomacy. And there are some red flags, other red flags in regard to the influence of the Israeli government on US officials as it pertains to a possible war with Iran. I'll give you those red flags in just a moment. Before I do, Cenk, it seems like you have a little bit of insight in this story.
Yeah, so this guy is actually one of the original corporate Democrats that took over the Democratic Party and directed it away from the party of FDR to the corporate party that it is today. So he worked with Tony Coelho to do that. And in my book, Justice is Coming, I make a note to say, hey, is that funny that Biden put him back into power by making him ambassador to Israel? But I thought it was a relatively benign appointment. It's not like he's in charge of economic policy, etc. Nope. The minute you have a conservative corporate Democrat, they're gonna do damage. And that, by the way, also applies to Biden. So why are you putting this hawk in charge of our ambassadorship to a critical country? I mean, if there's one ambassador in the world that could start a war, I mean, certainly he's among the top 5. Our ambassador to Iran might be able to start a war, etc.
Do we still have an ambassador?
That's a good
to
question.
Iran?
I'm not sure about that either.
Yeah, I want to look into that.
Yeah. But so this guy totally, look, and you have to ask the question too. This is very important, especially for the reporters. Is he going rogue and just trying to start a war because he's a right winger? Or does he have Biden's backing? Is Biden saying, "Oh, go agitate to start a war"? Because Biden's conservative.
That's a fantastic question, because think about the kind of confidence one would have, the kind of cojones someone would need to have in order to speak on behalf of the entirety of the United States government and declare to the Israeli government that they can invade Iran, they can engage in a war with Iran, and this is the part that matters, that the United States has their back.
Yeah, that
right?
Not only is it, hey, if you are attacked, we'll defend you. That's normal for an ally, right?
Yeah.
But no, you can start a war and we'll pick up the pieces.
That's exactly right.
We'll pay the price, by the way, not just in money, but we'll send over American boys and girls to die there on your behalf. So that is a hell of a thing to say. If Biden did not authorize it, he should be fired today, because you got to get him out of there to send a message. I did not authorize that pro-war statement, right? But Biden does do this all the time. So remember, his shtick is, oh, I bring all the Democrats together and I listen to progressives so much. I mean, I have a history as a very conservative Democrat, but I reach out to my friend Bernie Sanders, etc. But it's a lie, and so on 15.
It depends. I think that it's unfair to say that it's a lie when it comes to all matters. On certain policies, especially a few domestic issues, I do see the influence of Bernie Sanders. When it comes to foreign policy, certainly not. He is not listening to Bernie Sanders. In fact, he nixed a resolution that Sanders was trying to pass in regard to pulling US support away from Saudi Arabia in Yemen.
Yeah, I don't want to get into a debate about domestic policy and how maybe has he given has he been 5% progressive or 15% progressive at a max, right? Wow, big freaking deal. But okay, I think his policies are massively conservative. But look here, the example I was gonna give you is the one I always use, $15 minimum wage. He sends the 2 Delaware senators to vote against it. As a sign, I was never actually in favor of $15 minimum wage. Don't make any mistakes here. I'm still a conservative corporate douche. Okay, and of course, every political report in the country is like, I don't know what it means that the Delaware senators voted for it. I don't know, right? So he might be doing the same trick here. And this is, look, as important as $15 minimum wages, starting another war in the Middle East with a country 4 times the size of Iraq is an even bigger issue.
It would be a disaster.
And remember, Biden's always been pro-war. He voted for the Iraq war. He's a conservative warmonger, but if you listen to MSNBC or CNN, read New York Times, you'll never know that. So here's this guy, do you disavow it or don't you?
But let's also, look, we gotta be fair, okay? So yes, he does have a terrible history when it comes to foreign policy. However, we also have to give him credit for pulling out of Afghanistan. We also gotta give him credit for, there was something else he did recently that I'm blanking on right now.
Okay, he did pull out of Afghanistan.
He has significantly rolled back drone strikes in the Middle East, or drone strikes in general, right?
Okay, so Anna, thank you for doing that. Yeah. Those are important contexts so that you guys know the whole story. The flip side to that is, why didn't you sign the Iran deal? So why didn't you go right back into it? Remember, it was the Obama-Biden administration that did the deal in the first place. It worked fantastically. We got all of the uranium out of Iran. There was no chance they were gonna do nuclear weapons. Trump takes us out of it, creates this very dangerous situation. Biden goes back in, all he has to do is same exact deal, and we're done, right? Iran will take it, we know that. He could just do it. And it's been over 2 years.
Right.
He doesn't want to go back in the deal.
That's right.
And guys, come on, are we kidding around? Look, the reason we don't say that Biden and almost every politician in America, quote unquote, serves Israel is because you're worried about the old anti-Semitic tropes, right? And you don't want to get into that, and it has nothing to do with religion or background or anything. But it does have to do with campaign contributions that corporations and individuals give. And Israel's not alone, Saudi Arabia does the same thing, ExxonMobil does the same thing. But is Joe Biden allowed to disagree with the government of Israel, even if it's the most fundamentalist government, right-wing government, a government that wants a bloody war for us to fight? Well, if he's allowed to disagree with them, he hasn't shown it yet.
So let's get back to some of the red flags that I'm seeing. By the way, the United States does not have an ambassador to Iran, so I wanted to clarify that. So here's one red flag that caught my attention. So according to Haaretz, the letter comes days, meaning the letter from the NGOs, comes days after Israel's Minister for Strategic Affairs and an Israeli national security advisor led a delegation in Washington to strengthen coordination on Iran, with the White House noting it reviewed with significant concern advances in Iran's nuclear program, which, by the way, would not be an issue had the Trump administration avoided tearing up and throwing away that Iran nuclear deal, and had the Biden administration re-enter that nuclear deal. So you can't whine and cry about the development of nuclear weapons in Iran when the United States government aided and abetted that effort. Okay, so let's just keep it real about that. And then finally, this is what I'm really concerned about. The US and Israel held its most significant joint military exercise to date earlier this year, and Israel ambassador to the United States, Michael Herzog, recently told the Haaretz UCLA conference that the two countries are, quote, much closer, end quote, to each other on the issue than in previous years.
And even more close than Trump was. And Trump killed one of the top general for the Iranians, got us out of the deal, and he was like inches away from starting the war that Netanyahu wants. And apparently Biden is closer to Netanyahu than Trump was.
Yeah, according to
their own ambassador.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and I want to say one last thing, guys. Don't forget Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia also wants us to attack Iran, and they don't want to do it. They would lose to Iran, and they don't want to, use any Saudi, people to do it, right? For them, they're like, oh, us, We don't want to get our hands dirty. We don't want to die. We want Americans to die for our wars. And is Biden allowed to question or disagree with the Saudi government? It doesn't look like it. Remember, he came in huffing and puffing. Oh my God, they killed the journalist. And
we need their oil.
What did he do? He went and cast.
We need their oil. Let's just keep it real. We need their oil. He wanted to make Mohammed bin Salman a pariah when he was campaigning in the 2020 election. But once we needed them to produce more oil, once we needed the OPEC cartel to play with us, but that's it.
And the last thing is Biden is weak because the Saudis didn't even do what he wanted. When inflation was at its worst and the midterms are coming up, the Saudis spat in his face. And now what's he doing? Kissing their ass and saying, oh, I might start a war for you guys with Iran. That would be the worst thing imaginable. So if I'm wrong about any of it, the great news is Joe Biden's president of the United States. It's not like he can't change the policy. It's not like he can't change his ambassador. It's not like he can't clarify it. But my guess is he won't because he serves his donors 100%, even if they're foreign countries.
When we come back from the break, we'll talk about the record debt that Americans are dealing with, and the numbers associated with credit card debt should have you concerned. That and more coming up.
Back on TYT, Chris Birch gifted 10 Young Turks memberships. Chris, you're a hero, brother. Thank you. We appreciate it. I get comments all the time like, I don't know where this membership came from, but I'm so happy and so thankful. Well, among other people like Lauren McRae and so many wonderful other generous folks, you should thank Chris for it too. All right, Snack Panther writes in YouTube membership. Liar, liar, Republican on fire. They're certainly their pants are on fire, whether it's Jenna Ellis or Tucker Carlson. Cleric of Truth says, yep, Trump was Mitch's bitch. That's on the tax cuts. Mitch McConnell said, I want my donors to get all the cuts. But to be fair to Trump, he wasn't really a bitch. He wanted the tax cuts just as much as anyone else. It's another thing in my book. You can get it at tyt.com/justice. You can pre-order it. Trump said he didn't want poor people in his government. He only wanted really rich people, and he accomplished that mission. He had the richest cabinet in American history, and what did they do? They decided to give themselves giant tax cuts. So that's how it works. Kurt Million says, I forgot Tucker was on CNN. There's actually, before he went to Fox News, he was the single most establishment person of my life, Tucker Carlson. He was a host on CNN and MSNBC, and then got the Fox News gig. So he was cable news, and he was like just playing different roles. By the way, to this day, Rachel Maddow has nothing but glowing things to say about Tucker Carlson because he apparently helped her once. So I guess that buys him carte blanche to lie to people and be a demagogue and an awful person. But hey, at least she got helped. Anyway, Mondo Lustraka says Tucker at one time was a more reasonable conservative. Well, that shtick didn't work. He had terrible ratings on CNN and MSNBC. The bow tie didn't work, elitism didn't work. And then he realized, oh, go fake populist. And that did work. Screet Gill said, Jank, Anna, it's not my birthday. Can I get a shout out? That's funny. Screet Gill, shout out. Michael Gonzalez, if Trump ever did go to jail, they should feed him only Tucker Swanson dinners. That's funny.
Which are gross, by the way.
Yeah. Eva Women writes in, after the Iran hostage crisis in 1979, the United States terminated diplomatic relations with the Iranian government. Therefore, no ambassadors have since been appointed. Thank you. We appreciate it. I love how smart and educated our audience is. We corrected that on the air, but I love that you wrote in about it. Woke Dragon says, peace sells, but who's buying? Look, guys, the semiconductor bill, for example, is not a bad bill. It's a bad bill in my opinion for a lot of different reasons, but it's not like it's not needed, right? But what does it do? It gives $54 billion from us to corporations. It's so just being a bad bill is not the only guide, right? But the guide is, it must help corporations. It's a good bill, a bad bill, a mediocre bill, it doesn't matter. War helps corporations. Peace does not help specific bribing corporations. So peace does not sell, so that it has no advocates in Washington, no realistic, powerful advocates. I'm out of time. I'll be back. We'll be back. Back on TYT, Jake and Anna with you guys. More news.
Look, there's a story that broke that we're gonna do, and I want my producers to hear this. Grab the Buttigieg quote about how he's urging railroad companies to ramp up their safety protocols. That's an important part of the story. Okay, let's move on. I was gonna text them, but we ran out of time. So let's talk about debt. You guys ready? Let's do it.
We've seen this explosion in debt overall. Credit card balances especially have hit a new record at the end of last year, nearly $1 trillion. That's not only the highest ever, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, it was also the biggest yearly increase on record, up $130 billion.
That's right, household debt in America is at record highs, and it follows an era that saw a jump in savings thanks to people staying at home during the pandemic and not spending any money. Of course, there was some stimulus money as a result of the pandemic as well. But now the tables have completely flipped, and Americans are finding themselves with an increasingly heavy burden of household debt. And it's particularly bad for millennials. For instance, millennials have seen their debt rise by nearly 30% since before the pandemic to about $3.8 trillion. Now, overall, consumer debt, which includes mortgages, car loans, student debt, all debt, is at around $17 trillion as we speak. But the biggest concern is credit card debt, and we're seeing an explosion there, which is definitely concerning when you think about the high interest rates associated with them. Now, credit card debt in the US has been rising at one of the fastest rates in history. We collectively owe nearly $1 trillion on our cards, an all-time high. In January alone, credit card debt jumped more than 11%, and the interest rates rising, getting ahead, and with the interest rates rising, getting ahead of the debt gets harder and harder. In fact, if you're wondering just how much the average interest rate is for a credit card, it's around 20%. And the average household now owes nearly $6,500 in credit card debt. Now, there are impacts that we're already seeing, some statistics that are already concerning. For instance, the percentage of credit card delinquencies, meaning people who haven't been able to make a payment in 90 days or more, that has shot up. And Americans paid down their debt. Remember, they paid down their debt during the pandemic, and now that trend has completely reversed. For instance, in the first quarter of 2021, credit card balances totaled $770 billion, compared with $890 billion just a year earlier in 2020. Now, there are many causes for this. Of course, inflation is a huge reason. People are falling behind on their car payments. There's also increasing childcare costs. But I think it's also worth discussing the late fees associated with these credit cards, because the Biden administration, along with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, wanted to do something about that. But moneyed interests have been fighting aggressively to stop it. So let me just give you a few details about that. And then Cenk, I know you have a corruption angle to get to. So in February, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau proposed a rule that would limit most credit card late fees to $8, down from the $41 companies are currently permitted to charge. Such late fees are a major profit center for credit card companies and cost card holders $12 billion in 2020, according to the Consumer Watchdog Agency. The CFPB proposal would eliminate the automatic annual increase and require credit card companies to prove that any fees in excess of $8 are necessary to cover their collection costs. It would also prohibit any fees exceeding 25% of the minimum payment due. Cenk.
Yeah, so I realized reading the first story about how much debt we've accumulated collectively and how it was actually pretty good in 2021, that we had record savings. And so you know why we had it, we alluded to it there. We got stimulus checks because of COVID. A lot of people didn't go out because they were at home, so not vacationing, not buying as many things, et cetera. And there were some raises as well. So that wound up stockpiling a little bit of cash. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, of course. That's when lobbyists and corporate figures thought, that's a nice little piggy bank. Let's go take it, okay? So how did they take it? Well, one of the ways that they did was they raised prices way beyond what their costs were. So was inflation real before the price gouging? Yes, okay, there was definitely a little bit of increase in cost of supplies, et cetera. But corporations took advantage of that, and we showed you dozens of quotes on air, right? From investor calls saying, turns out people could pay a lot more, they have extra money. So we charge them way more. So they did. So they would raise prices sometimes 500%, right? And so they decided, we're just gonna take that back. And so they did. Now it's in our credit card debt. The companies already got paid. Now the credit card companies are getting paid. And what do? In order for them to continue this robbery, they buy off a bunch of politicians. So you're gonna be shocked to find out that 17 people in Congress are adamantly fighting against any proposal that would limit the late fees that the credit card companies can charge you. And you're gonna be further shocked to find out that 15 of them were paid by credit card companies. Campaign contributions meant for the general welfare, I'm sure, right? That's what reporters would have you believe.
They're just practicing some speech,
Yeah, yeah, they just blah, blah, blah. And then you're gonna be further shocked to find out that the people that they bought off, most especially, were the Republicans that were in charge of the committees, okay? So McHenry is one of them. You wanna?
No, go ahead. I don't have their names.
Yeah,
but
I have it.
Go ahead.
So it's Patrick McHenry, and he's the chairman of the House Financial Service Committee, and Andy Barr. They're 2 out of the top 5 recipients of credit card cash. I'm sure that has nothing to just coincidentally, they're protecting them. Guys, the difference between the $41 and the $8 in fees is $9 billion every single year. So if they limited it to $8 and protected you, you would save collectively $9 billion. But remember, the companies would then not make an extra $9 billion in profit.
Exactly.
So the small amount of money that they pay McHenry and the other crooks is nothing compared to the $9 billion that are online for just this one regulation, okay? And do any of you, even if you're a right winger, do you want to pay $41 for no reason? It's not at all. Speaking of 500%, it is 500% of their costs. So how is it like, it's not a little margin, it's you cannot have that kind of profit margin unless you bought off the government. Normally you would have competition that would reduce it, but it's an oligarchy. Okay, so, but Cenk, is it really fair that they buy off committee chairs? Is that a little hyperbole? I can see the New York Times reporter saying. Well, let's find out. Mo Brooks was a very conservative Republican that was in the House. Lauren Windsor went to a campaign event of his and covered this on her show, The Undercurrent. Let's see what he had to say.
Special interest groups run Washington. And I don't mean that metaphorically, I mean literally. Now, here is how it happens. In the House of Representatives, I'll use that as an example because that's where I work. If you want to be chairman of a major committee, you have to purchase it. And the purchase price for a major committee, say like Ways and Means, minimum bid is $1 million.
So I wonder where you're gonna get that $1 million, because it seems like it'd be hard for someone in Alabama to give that to you. To be fair to Mo Brooks, is the one time he was perfectly honest and explained, no, we don't get it from Joe and Jane Citizen. Where do we get it from, Mo? Let's find out.
You have to get it from the special interest groups. And with the special interest groups, there is a quid pro quo. If you don't do what they tell you to do, they won't give you the money that finances your chairmanship.
So we act as puppets. That's what we do. What's the point of the chairmanship if all you do is act as a puppet for moneyed interests? Like, what's the point? Like, they just want power. That's it. I want power so much, even though, is it really power when you're someone else's bitch?
No, Anna, we often misstate that. They have no power at all. They're just servants. How much power does a butler have, right? No, they're seeking status. I am a congresswoman. And by the way, once you become a congressman, they call you Congressman Brooks, Congressman McHenry for the rest of your life.
Oh, how special.
But they're obsessed with that. They think that's like the most important thing in the world. And to be fair to them, that's how the so-called fourth estate treats them. They're supposed to hold them accountable, and they make it seem like, oh, the Congress people and senators, they're so important. They're the only people we trust. If you're an outsider or trying to hold them accountable, you don't have a lot of credibility. A senator has lots of credibility. They are a beloved, honored elite, right? No, they're crooks. You just saw it with your own eyes. They get bribed, and they do exactly as they are told, and now that's gonna cost you collectively $9 billion. So look, Republicans, you love drain the swamp. If this ain't the swamp, what is it? So do you actually love corruption? Because I give the right wing credit for one thing all the time, which is that you hate corruption. Well, here it is. You're a Republican congressman. What's the first thing they did? Oh, take away the IRS agents from people making above $400,000. We don't want the millionaires audited. Protect the millionaires. What's the second thing they're doing? Make sure you could charge the average man more for late fees, okay? Even if it's over by, they accidentally didn't pay 50 cents, charge them $41. Why? Because they're crooks. If you were an honest journalist, you would explain that every time. By the way, the story about how the money that they took, as usual, from the lever. Great job by Sirota's organization.
All right, we're gonna do a little more kind of international, more foreign policy related news involving Ben Shapiro. So let's do it.
I think the notion that you're going to somehow save the country on behalf of property rights by engaging in a military coup over there, I don't see that. There are situations, by the way, in Latin America where that is an appropriate response.
If you live in a Latin American country, Shapiro apparently wants you to know that it's okay for the military to overthrow your democratically elected leader in some cases, Now he says while countries such as Chile and Guatemala are still suffering from the very real consequences of the United States orchestrating a coup in their countries, he does say that he sees some instances where a coup d'etat makes sense. So I don't want to put words in his mouth. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
What would it take to justify an uprising to overthrow the government? What line would the government have to cross for you to support something like that? Well, the answer is that you could not actually achieve any of your rights by any other means. So in Brazil, it's not like Bolsonaro's party went away. They still have a giant hold in the Brazilian legislature. Bolsonaro as a political figure hasn't even gone away. The Bolsonarist movement is not over. Lula himself has governed more centrist than he campaigned. I think Lula is a terrible politician. I think he's very, very corrupt. But I think the notion that you're going to somehow save the country on behalf of property rights by engaging in a military coup over there, I don't see that. There are situations, by the way, in Latin America where that is an appropriate response. I mean, there was an attempt by the would-be dictator of Honduras at one point to basically dissolve the Supreme Court, take control of the military, and declare himself dictator. When that sort of stuff happens, obviously a military coup is appropriate because you're talking about the actual end of democracy. But I'm a little nervous about anybody declaring a premature end to democracy before that actually happens.
Okay, so glad to see that he doesn't think there should be another military coup in Brazil. Of course, the country has a history with military coups. But with that said, he does specify one coup that he was in favor of, and that was the coup d'etat in Honduras, which, by the way, severely destabilized the country. It's part of the reason why there's a crisis with migrants trying to come into the United States for safety. But let me give you the details on what happened. So the coup d'etat happened back in 2009. The military overthrew Manuel Zelaya, and he was detained and then flown out of the country to Costa Rica. Now, Ben Shapiro didn't give you all the details, so let's give you all the details now. He was only slightly left-leaning. He was actually in the center left of the pink tide, but even that was enough to provoke anger from the Honduran oligarchy. And usually when coups like this happen, it has to do with business interests wanting to overthrow leftist leaders or anyone who might threaten their profit model or their business overall. Now, Zelaya's administration released a survey that asked Hondurans if they would like to vote on whether or not Honduras should update its national constitution. Now, Honduran right-wingers claim that this was concrete proof of Zelaya planning to abolish the article that limited the president to a single term. Now, on June 28th of 2009, that was when the military coup occurred. But later, the right-wing administration abolished that article. Interesting that that wasn't mentioned in the segment. But the very issue that some point to as the reason why the coup was okay, right? Oh, but Zelaya was gonna do, it was a power grab by Zelaya, they had to do this. Well, then the right wingers come in after the coup and they do exactly what they had accused Zelaya of attempting to do.
Look, guys, I've never seen the right wing be honest in Latin America, okay? So now I don't follow it microscopically, so I'm sure there was some honest right-wingers somewhere in there. I'm talking about the big picture. When they come in, they do a coup against a left-wing person actually representing the interests of the people. It's always a lie. There's a real business interest behind it. It's always the money. It's usually American and local business interest against someone who says something like, you know what, maybe we should charge the price that the market will bear for bananas, so that the people, since that's our natural resource, whether it's oil, fruit, etc., we should get paid appropriately. Market prices, capitalism, right? And they go, oh, you goddamn socialist, how dare you? And then they usually topple the guy, etc. Now, Shapiro says sometimes that's okay. Okay, I'm come back to that in a second, because he said two words in there that was very, very relevant, okay? But now let's talk about recent examples of this type of thing happening, of where, according to the Shapiro standard, a coup is acceptable. When a government comes in and starts messing with the Supreme Court. Wait, that's what Netanyahu's doing in Israel.
So should there be a coup in Israel?
Should there be a coup? I mean, it's not my rule.
That's actually a really great point, Cenk.
That's literally what Netanyahu's doing.
And by the way, just to be clear, not in favor of coups under any circumstance.
No, it's not my rule. I don't want the coups, okay?
Yeah.
So, but I guess all those hundreds of thousands of left-wing protesters in Israel who I love, right? I guess they should just, according to Shapiro, pick up arms and just do a coup against Netanyahu.
In fact, a story today, members of the Israeli Defense Forces have threatened to stop serving should Netanyahu get his way and weaken the country's Supreme Court.
I'm sure that Ben thinks that they should go further. No, keep serving, just turn the weapons against your own government, right? It's not my standard. The second part of the standard is, well, if they're about to destroy democracy, like for example, if you lose a presidential election but don't want to leave and get your supporters to ransack the capital of your own country. So, there's some right-wingers say, oh, well, Antifa was the one that was trying to do a coup. Even if that maniacal statement were true, apparently Ben Shapiro would say, great, that's when you do a coup, okay? When a guy is trying to destroy democracy, just like Trump was. So this is what the right wing does. That's what they do in every country, including Honduras, okay? So now the two critical words. Did you notice? When is it? The question was about when do you do a coup on behalf of property rights?
Yep.
Not on behalf of people.
No, but that's
on behalf of property rights.
But Cenk, that it reinforces what you were saying earlier about right wingers loving coups, because the #1 priority is property rights.
Which is, right? By the way, if you don't get it, property rights equals the money.
Exactly.
Okay.
Business interests.
Business interests. Yeah. So he's having a conversation about when should rich people do a coup of their own government so that the government doesn't serve the people, it goes back to serving them. And he's having a discussion and debate with himself about, oh, when do we do it? When do we do it here? No, rich people shouldn't organize a coup against their own country at that point. They should do it at this point. And look, Shapiro is in a lot of ways just a classic conservative. He has a lot of the opinions they have had for years and years and years. And the Republican Party has been in favor of coups to help business interests for decades on end. And if you help your own citizens, like Mossadegh in Iran, and say, hey, maybe we should get a fair market price for our oil, well, those property rights come to get you.
Yeah, I did think it was fascinating that he specified some Latin American countries. It's okay. The coupping is okay. Okay,
yeah.
It's the coup in Iran, which of course was orchestrated by the United States, didn't work out so well, did it? Think about that.
Yeah. Well, in the short term, both British and American oil companies made way more money. So it worked out brilliantly for them and for the people, who are among the elites that Shapiro supports.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but what I was referring to is the adversarial relationship Israel has with Iran. Yeah. Would that be the case if things were a little different, right?
No, for sure. Yeah. Because we overthrew their democratically elected government and put in a dictator, the Shah, it wound up creating tremendous resentment, which led to the Iranian Revolution and the mullahs that haunt us all now, right?
Yep.
Thanks a lot for your property rights coup that you did in Iran. It wound up hurting not just the people of Iran, but the people of America and Israel and the whole world, thanks to your idiotic greed.
Money over people, that's the trend that we've been seeing for many, many decades now. All right, we gotta take a break. When we come back, some more international news for you, including some of the largest strikes in French history. Incredible story, don't miss it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like. tyt.com/join and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat. Animals are innocent. Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here. This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone
is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that Black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger Black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was the white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it, though.
We've been around for about 20 years, and we have about 20 billion views. Am I proud of that? Hell yeah, I am. We put out 20 billion messages in a bottle. Have we helped to move now 2 generations, millennials and Gen Z, to become progressive? Yes, those numbers are real. We moved generations. Were we the only ones? Of course not. But we have been the largest online news show for now decades.
Sexual temptation. Oh.
Back on TYT, Jay and Anna with you guys, but also Yusuf Boos and Doughboy75. They just became members and American heroes. We appreciate it. Welcome, guys. You guys make this show possible. We got nothing without you guys. TYT.com/join. But by the way, with you guys, we're a little invincible.
No, it's 100% true though. Yeah. It is.
Yeah, like nobody can cancel us. Nobody can take us off the air. We're powered by members. We give you guys what you want. And in your case, you want the truth. Whether it's good or bad, we've given you a lot of bad news in the world, but at least we're giving you something that's true. So thank you to all the members. All right, Anna.
Let's go to France.
French union workers aiming to shut down critical industries across the nation, walking off the job and into the streets, blockading oil refineries, some even starting bonfires, and cutting off deliveries to electricity and gas facilities. We haven't been heard or listened to, said this oil refinery worker. We're using the only means we have left. It's the hard strike.
Well, they're not the only workers who have been striking in France. In fact, the French trade union estimated that 3.5 million protesters and workers took to the streets to fight against President Emmanuel Macron's proposed pension changes. And the French government tried to downplay it by giving a smaller estimate of, get a load of this, 1.2 million protesters, which is an incredible number of people who are taking to the streets to voice their opposition to Macron's proposals here. They've brought the country to a standstill over what he wants to do to pensions. So Tuesday marked the 6th mass protest in France in recent months. French Democratic Confederation General Secretary Laurent Berger said the strike was the biggest of the 6. Here's what the French are so angry and concerned about. So Macron's reform would raise the minimum pension age, sounds familiar, and require 43 years of work to earn a full pension amid other measures. The government argues that the current system is expected to dive into deficit within a decade as France's population ages and life expectancy lengthens. Gee, I've never heard those arguments in the context of the United States before.
Yeah, so in their case, they'd be raising the age to 64. We're at about 67 now. So
this is why I love France though, right?
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh no, you're not gonna do to us what happened to the Americans, okay? You know, they start with the 64 and before you know it, we're talking about 70. No, we're taking to the streets.
Yeah, if both France and America have a system that's not as clean and simple as 64 or 67, there's some different gradations in there. But overall, yes, we have a retirement age that is, by the way, France isn't even 64 yet, right? They're trying to get it to 64. So we have to work many more years than the French. The difference is in France, these level of protests gives me a sense of several things from the outside. Number one, their workers are a lot more empowered and they're used to taking power back. They're used to taking collective action. Our unions have been destroyed here in America.
That's right, yep.
So collective action is very difficult. This kind of almost a general strike here with 1.2 million people at a minimum, that's unheard of in America. And so the second thing that it tells me is, hey, look at that, the French have real press. Because here in America, our media would crush these strikes before anyone else even got to them. They wouldn't tell you about the strikes. If they did, they'd make it seem like it was the workers' fault and they were not taking a good contract offer. We've shown you so many of those cases from actual articles and news reports where they make it appear that the workers are totally unreasonable. And so both the politicians owned by corporate donors and the media, which are giant corporations themselves, would end this kind of protest in America and have ended it, right? We used to have massive strikes here in this country.
That's right, yes.
And then West Virginia and Kentucky were the epicenters. They were populist. They were, in those areas are not conservative, they're populist. There's a huge difference, right? And they would lead those strikes and they would be so bold and brave and they would be celebrated. Now the media has nothing but disdain for them. So congratulations, the people of France. You have it a lot better than you realize. We're dying out here in America, and most people in America don't even know it.
Right, so look, I might regret getting deeper into the media critique angle of the story, but I can't help it. You know what the difference is though, right, Cenk? When it comes to the media of yesteryear versus media today. I mean, media today, it's publicly traded. The #1 priority is profit. There is no fairness doctrine. The media is corrupt in a similar way that politicians are corrupted by business interests that only care about their profits. Like that is a huge problem, which is why let me just. I don't want anyone to think that I'm complaining about the coverage of Black Lives Matter, but I do want you to just think about the difference in how the corporate media covered BLM protests in the summer of 2020, how they took it seriously, provided a lot of coverage of it. Now compare that to how they treated Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street, that had to do with challenging Wall Street, challenging big business, challenging the corruption in our system. Oh, the media hated that and immediately squashed it, immediately discredited it.
Yeah, I don't want you to misinterpret what Anna's saying.
Yeah.
It isn't that the Black Lives Matter was left wing. No, it's that it's a culture war issue.
Yeah.
So for example, the right wing truckers that were trying to block roads coming in from Canada because they disagreed with vaccine policy, right? That's another culture war issue. So they got tons of coverage. Whereas meanwhile, poor striking workers in Alabama get almost no coverage.
Exactly, yes,
right?
exactly.
So when it's a culture war issue, whether it's on our side or the right wing side, tons of coverage, right? When it's an economic issue, bring it down, bring it down. You can't have a fire without oxygen. And the job of the corporate media in America is to take away all the oxygen. Now back to France, keep on going, brothers and sisters.
Yes.
We've seen the future here in America. If you don't make this stand and you don't win now, they're just gonna keep taking away all your rights.
So real quick, I do want to give you some more details about the strike. And also there is something worth mentioning when it comes to how the media in Europe is covering this as well. But first, some details about what's going on. So the sheer scale of these coordinated strikes are mind-boggling, especially when you think about the context here in the United States where we don't really have organized labor that can do the same thing. So oil shipments were halted by strikes at several refineries. Workers also cut France's nuclear output. Garbage collectors went on strike and blocked access to Europe's biggest incineration plant. A fifth of flights were canceled at Paris's, the Paris airport that has a name that I'm not gonna mispronounce, I'm just gonna move on. Trains to Germany and Spain were stopped entirely. Trains to and from Britain and Belgium were reduced by 1/3. Most high-speed and regional trains were shut shut down. Dock workers blockaded key seaports. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Now, I do want to just talk about the media and how they're covering it because it's not all good. So listen to the questions that a BBC anchor asks a French teacher and a member of the teachers union about the strikes.
So the government says that these plans are necessary, raising the retirement age, because they say that if they don't, simply the numbers don't add up. It would be in deficit. Why is raising the pension age such a problem? In Germany, the age is 65. In Italy, the age is 67. In the UK, the age is 66. And in Spain, the age is 65. In France, it is 62 still. So actually all the government is doing is proposing to bring it some way closer to being in line with the rest of Europe. You say this is about being fairer, but I wonder, and I put it to you, we're all living longer, we're all able to work longer, and therefore we are contributing to the system longer, because you would expect to be able to draw that retirement pension much later than perhaps in the past. So it's only fair that you work a bit longer to pay for it.
I'm sorry, but I love the British.
But we're living longer, aren't we, chap? Okay, you're being a bit unfair. I love the motions.
But I need to understand, why shouldn't you work until the day you die? Other countries force their workers to work till the day they die. Why shouldn't you?
I'm at the BBC, not corporate interest, but somehow we've also decided to go with conservative talking points. Like, there's no hope anywhere, man. The media is so conservative. It's on economic issues, it's insane. It's a giant groupthink.
Yeah.
We must protect the powerful. We must have access to the powerful. It's disgusting. How about thinking about the workers? And in France, I mean, look at what that guy is saying. You guys are doing a great job of sticking up for yourselves. We've beaten the workers in every other country. Why won't you surrender already?
Yeah.
To which I say, vive la France.
100%. Finally, according to the AEF news agency, 63% of French people oppose the government proposal. So power to the people, keep fighting, and tell Macron what's up, because I love this. All right, we gotta take a break. When we come back, we are gonna do my favorite story of the day, a randy Republican lieutenant governor. Don't miss it.
You guys are gonna love that story. So first off, guys, if you can, just subscribe to Watch, Listen, Unbossed. It makes a giant difference, and it takes about 3 seconds. So I know Unbossed is obviously Nina Turner's show. So that's youtube.com/unbossedtyt, and Watchlist is J.R. Jackson's show. It's on right before the Young Turks. That's youtube.com/watchlisttyt. And then don't forget our podcasting network. You can catch most of our shows right there. And the Progress Report, that's our newsletter. I love the newsletter. Check that out. You could use a QR code there or tyt.com/newsletter to subscribe. All right, let me go to YouTube Super Chat. Matt Gates on a white Ford Bronco says, if Israel goes to war with Iran, the entire right wing will vote for Biden. I guarantee 100. Please, someone prove me wrong. I have no idea what the right wing in America is going to do if we start a war with Iran. Because they've all been saying, the populists, which is a much, much larger faction of the right wing in America, have been saying that they're anti-war. Are they going to turn around and go, of course you start a war on Israel's behalf and make sure that we go and die there in Iran for no goddamn reason? Or are they going to be like, wait, no. But you know what the answer is, the correct answer? It depends, who's president. If Biden does it, they're gonna say, aha, he's a warmonger, you gotta vote for Trump, right? If Trump's president, they'll be like, of course you have to defend Israel. Anyway, that's how it shows you strength. All right, here we go. Chris Bird says, happy almost Friday, Cenk and Anna. Congratulations on being allowed to not be demonetized for cursing on YouTube. Thank you for your kind praise. I hope it helps those who need a small gift. Respect. Chris, the guy who gave 10 Young Turks memberships today on YouTube. Chris, we appreciate it. And there's certain curse words we can say and certain ones we can't say, and that's the real answer. Melinda 372 says, thank you all for something important. Never dehumanizing people, even those you don't agree with. We have enough dehumanization. It fuels violence.
I think it's okay with Alex Jones, though.
Well, you've got to be human in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, but no, seriously, guys. That's the thing. If the right wing wins, their main goal is to own the libs, right? But if the left wing wins, the right wing also wins because we're going to get them things that are going to help their lives. So they just got to let us, right? And I know that, of course, they're real people. They care about their families and their communities and they love them. They just got to expand the circle of liberty a little bit more. That's also in the book, tyt.com/justice. Speaking of which, nope, I don't. I lose track of the comments anyway. All right, I'll find that later. Christina Rod says, hi from Canada, Anna and Cenk. You two cover things fairly and I love watching you. Thanks for telling the truth. We appreciate it. You make that possible through the super chats and the membership. Stephen Ernsky says, I get married Sunday. Shout out. Enough with the shout outs, but all right, congrats, Stephen. Go get him, all right?
Go get him.
Go get him. We'll be back. Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. News.
Well, Republican Lieutenant Governor of Tennessee, Randy McNally, has been accused of posting some pretty salacious comments on the profile pictures, Instagram images of a young gay man, a 20-year-old gay man. Now, before I get to the details of what he's posted, I think we need to be fair and we need to share Randy's side of the story here, you know? Because we don't want him to be inaccurately portrayed or represented.
100%.
Yeah.
And look, he helped to pass the anti-LGBTQ law.
Right.
And they've done a ton of discrimination in 2 different bills in Tennessee against the LGBTQ community. But he says that's not an issue for him. So let's go to his spokesperson.
Right, so his spokesperson, Adam, tells the Daily Beast, trying to imply something sinister or inappropriate about a great grandfather's use of social media says more about the mind of the left-wing operative, making the implication than it does about Randy McNally. As anyone in Tennessee politics knows, Lieutenant Governor McNally is a prolific social media commenter.
Prolific.
He takes great pains to view every post he can and frequently posts encouraging things to many of his followers.
Encouraging, he's just prolific and he's, so now guys.
Prolific and encouraging.
Now we're gonna show you his prolific and encouraging posts, and then you'll get to find out if you think he's just being generically encouraging or perhaps he has a certain motivation. Let's find out.
Well, first a few details about the gentleman that he leaves comments for. He's a 20-year-old gay man named Franklin McClure. And apparently Randy and Franklin are on a first name basis because the lieutenant governor refers to him as Finn. Okay, cool. In November, for example, McClure posted an entirely nude picture that was narrowly avoided showing his penis. And the comment from the lieutenant governor was, great picture, Finn, referencing McClure's nickname. Best wishes for continued health and happiness.
Now guys, you see that and you say, well, look, maybe the guy's working in the yard and the guy's leaving a normal, encouraging message. He doesn't know that the guy is gay. I mean, he's calling him Finn, which is his handle. McClure says, oh yeah, this guy's been my fan for 3 years. I know him really well, he leaves comments all the time. Can we see one of the pictures to see if this is innocent or not?
Well, he commented on this photo saying, super look, Finn, with a clapping emoji.
Yeah, I can't tell what his interest in McClure might be. Okay, maybe it helps him Finn-ish.
He's just encouraging and prolific, okay? Now, he commented on this photo of McClure's butt saying, Finn, you can turn a rainy day into rainbows and sunshine, along with a heart and fire emojis, by the way.
No. He's just a prolific social media commenter. He was just trying to be encouraging of that 20-year-old's ass.
Randy indeed. Now,
best, most fitting name in American politics.
Yeah.
Randy McNally. Is his middle name Horny?
No, like, by the way, like I can't get over the fact that he's 79 years old. Like the fact that he's leaving the comments, that's enough of a story, right? But he's leaving like the fire emoji, heart emojis.
Yeah.
No. Amazing.
He's got game out there.
I guess, if that's what you want to call it. Now, we've got more. So McNally's interest actually goes beyond McClure's photos. In a December 2022 video, McClure suggestively wiggled his tongue while singing. McNally responded with hearts and flame emojis, adding, very good.
That is encouraging.
He also follows a fan page that posts edited pictures of McClure, including one with a background declaring him a bad bitch.
Okay, so I'm sorry, we have to get a little bit serious, and then we'll get so. I know. So the laws that they pass in Tennessee. Okay, so one is trying to regulate what parents can do with their trans children, right? So it's a war on parents, saying the jackbooted thugs of the Tennessee government should determine what you do with your family and not you, okay? Obviously, they don't want women controlling their bodies, they don't want parents controlling their own families, but they also pass a second, we've already told you about that law, but they also pass a second law saying that county clerks, if they have any religious objection for any reason, can just deny you marriage licenses. Now that means you can't get married in Tennessee if you trigger the fundamentalist inclinations of any county clerk, right? So now people have said, oh, they could deny interracial marriage if they wanted to. Technically they could, but they haven't shown that they're going in that direction. Are they going to deny people the right to get married if they're a gay couple? Almost certainly. That was the entire point of that bill. So our friend Randy is the lieutenant governor and was the head of the Senate in pushing these bills forward. So his actions are, no, we cannot let these gays get married because they've got to be on Instagram and showing their butts so I can see it and finish to it, okay? I don't want him getting hitched up with a guy and then I can't see him on Instagram anymore. What am I gonna do with my spare time? And so LGBTQ people shouldn't have any rights, except it turns out Randy McNally is LGBTQ. And so, and if you're gonna catch feelings over it, Randy, I know you're very encouraging. Send me an encouraging note, okay? Okay, so look guys, this is what we tell you all the time. Almost all of these culture wars in regards to LGBTQ issues are basically closeted people who hate themselves versus people who are out of the closet and don't hate themselves.
In some cases, yeah. I would argue in most cases, it's a way of distracting from the fact that they do nothing of substance for the very people who voted them into office in the first place, and instead provide the illusion of governing by choosing whatever group they want to target. It's always a powerless group. It always ends poorly for the powerless group that's already powerless. But the voters think like, no, this person's representing me, right? Looking out for my best interest because this group or that group that I've been fear-mongered about is a threat to my life. How exactly, I don't know.
Well, I do know, so that's the thing, right? So we always joke about that, like how does it affect you if Finn is doing what he's doing in Tennessee, right? How could it possibly affect my life? But it actually, in a sense, does affect our life.
How?
And so that's what I got out of this story. So everything is projection, right? So this guy thinks, well, if we let people have rights, as with most conservatives, and you will see them making this point over and over again. If we let them have these rights, well then obviously more people are going to be gay. We just did a story about a couple of days ago, another conservative saying that.
And
because
so what?
In their minds, well, if you could, everybody would be gay, wouldn't they? So that's why they're saying this will affect my life. If we think it's perfectly normal for people to be gay, well then obviously I would be gay. And he probably thinks that everyone would be gay because he assumes that everyone thinks like he does. He's like, well, we can't have that, then you won't have families and stuff like that. Everybody will be lusting after Finn. If we let him, that's why we gotta make sure that we don't let him. No, dude, that's your own internal demons that you're battling. Please leave the rest of us alone.
Yeah, no, 100%. And also, bro, you're 79 years old. Like, go live your life. What are you doing?
No,
what are you doing?
No, but the thing is, if he wasn't taking people's rights away, I'd be like, Randy, have at it, Hoss. Okay, go. I don't care. Look, you might say, oh, he's a perv for leaving it on the young guy's page and stuff. Brother, you're 79, how much longer, right? So, and by the way, maybe a lot longer, and God bless, I wish everybody good health, right? But he seems to be at the point where he has less F's to give, right? So then live your true self. What are you waiting for?
So Finn was asked about, what the lieutenant governor has been up to in his career in regard to scaling back any rights for the LGBT community. And here's what he said to the Tennessee Holler. I just thought he was older and out of touch. I've always taken it as a compliment. I don't dislike him or think he's a bad person. He's one of the only people who has consistently uplifted me and made me feel good.
He's also made himself feel good.
Now, but when the Tennessee Holler told him about the anti-LGBT legislation, Franklin McClure agreed that it was wrong, saying, quote, it's wrong to ban drag, wrong to ban anything that isn't hurting anyone. I don't support hate of any kind. And in a series of Instagram direct messages, McClure told the Daily Beast he thinks McNally follows him because he enjoys who I am. I hope he can extend that kindness by trying to make sure no bills are passed to hurt anyone like me. So, and McNally, you're right. I mean, he has sponsored some of these awful bills. He has supported some of these awful bills. But in some moments in his career, he has mildly spoken out against the right-wing hatred toward the LGBT community. In 2019, for instance, he warned his fellow colleagues, his Republican colleagues, that they were focusing too much on anti-LGBT causes and said the Senate should be cognizant of people's individual rights. And then he proceeded to support the bills that were not cognizant of people's individual rights. So let's just be clear about that.
Yeah, his actions matter 1,000 times more.
Agreed.
And he's a coward, obviously. He gave in to pass bills against his own community because he's afraid that the Republican voters are vicious and they hate people like him and they would vote him out of office immediately. But Randy, you're 79. When are you going to actually be who you are? What are you waiting for? Well, you're worried that they're gonna vote you out of, who cares? Who cares? You're worried that they're gonna judge you? Dude, we already know you're gay. Move on with your life. Please, however much time you have left, do something productive. Tell people who you actually are. Tell people this was a terrible bill, they shouldn't have passed. Both the bills, and that you guys are doing it to target these people that you literally love in your own way, right? But no, unfortunately, that closeted self-hatred is destroying the country.
Speaking of which, let's talk about this guy. A former elementary school librarian who spray painted the word groomer on 2 public libraries last year has been charged with child pornography.
Of course.
Charles Sutherland, a 31-year-old, faces at least 7 charges of possessing child pornography. Great mugshot. Now, this comes after Sutherland, who again worked as a librarian at Northview Elementary School in Bowie, was caught vandalizing 2 libraries. Sutherland was arrested last June after police said he was caught on video spray painting the word groomer on entrances to public libraries in New Carrollton and Greenbelt around the time of Capitol Pride Week. So there's that.
Okay, so this is a picture perfect case of projection. Not only does he watch child porn and is in possession of it, he works at a library.
No, it's amazing.
So he thinks, well, everyone who works at libraries must be a groomer like I am. So he goes and spray paints groomer on the library.
I mean, it's just, Look, the thing is, when you are obsessed with an issue, when it's all you seem to think about, all you seem to care about, you talk about it incessantly. What are you trying to hide? You get what I'm saying?
100%.
Right? Because I just, like, I don't think about what a gay couple does in the privacy of their own homes, ever. It has no impact on my life, I don't care, right?
Yeah.
But you'll hear right-wing pundits, right-wing talk show hosts, like obsess over those issues, not even an issue. But why? Why is that on your mind all the time? And by the way, that was rhetorical, you don't have to answer it. I think everyone knows what I'm getting at. But the other thing I wanted to just quickly mention is how stupid this guy is, right? Because he spray paints groomer on libraries, like he vandalizes the libraries. Police come to arrest him and he's like, yeah, you can search my house. Yeah, go ahead, search my house.
You have child porn.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so glad that he didn't know that he had rights. Okay.
Yeah, so they searched his home and they found the child pornography. And now he's facing child pornography charges, 7 charges.
By the way, if you're left wing, it's great that we all have rights. But if someone who's doing something really bad waives those rights, that's not a bad thing. Okay, so that's how you find the evidence against them in this particular case.
Now, during the search, the document says officers found numerous diapers, children's dolls, and a child-sized doll in Sutherland's bed.
Not well, this guy's not well.
According to Sutherland, he has no children or nieces or nephews, thank God. He also admitted he had child pornography on a laptop in his home. In January, a digital forensics examination of the laptop was completed and found 7 files of child pornography. It's so disgusting. God, it's
oh my God, so he's got the diaper fetish.
No.
Maybe this was, in a sense, a cry for help and trying to get caught. Because, I mean, I don't know how he got caught, but there's cameras usually on these public buildings. He works at one of them. I mean,
he doesn't seem very smart.
Yeah,
just
he
put
does.
It that way.
I mean, at a minimum, not the brightest bulb, but maybe he's trying to get caught. But either way, guys, when a guy walks into a room and yells, "Everyone's a groomer," there's an excellent chance that that's what's in their head. Okay, so, and by the way, to be fair, not all of them. So for QAnon, for example, they believe in absolutely crazy things, but a significant chunk of those people were actually victims. And so when you're a victim of sexual assault or pedophilia, et cetera, you think, oh, it happens to everybody because it happened to you, right? Mm-hmm. But also true of the assailants. The ones that do the crimes think everybody's doing them. They're like, what, people aren't raping kids?
Oh God.
Right? So that's why you're seeing all of these right wingers screaming, from different corners, something that it wasn't even like, is it a crime that happened all the time before? Yes, absolutely, it happens all the time. We should fight like hell to make sure that it doesn't happen. For anyone who's got kids like me, or even if you don't have kids, it's the #1 issue. Like I would say, by all means, make sure law enforcement's all over it, right? But it became a weird political issue.
Yeah, just a political attack against anyone the right wing doesn't like.
Yeah, so it was a twofer. It was #1, it allows for distraction and smearing of your opponents. So we're not concentrating on economic issues. It's the worst kind of attacking you can do on an opponent. But #2, it's projection. Anyone who's telling you how awful drag shows are probably loves drag shows. Anyone who's telling you how awful trans people are. We saw it with Alex Jones. He's got trans porn on his phone. They're all into whatever they're pretending to criticize. This guy happens to be an extreme case of it, but you see a right winger screaming about groomers, pretty shocking if they weren't thinking it themselves.
When we come back, we'll talk about Norfolk Southern giving the country a middle finger when it comes to bolstering their safety protocols. So that and more coming right up.
TYT. Cassandra Hefton says, this is a rule, the greater the opposition to LGBTQ+, the higher the probability they're LGBTQ+. It's a nice, simple rule, Cassandra. I might quote you on it. Tim Crocker says, Iran, we found the second largest lithium deposit in the world. Republicans, we're on our way, all aboard the war machine. Now that's fair, but not completely fair, because remember, it's Biden's ambassador to Israel that's beating the war drums the most. So don't count out the Democrats for starting wars. They're pretty good at it too, or supporting wars. Deanna Atkinson says, so Tucker Carlson has been obsessed with M&Ms for over 20 years. I've been meaning to read that the whole show because in the clip from 20 years ago, he talked about M&Ms. It's so funny, and in fact, one of our members also wrote that in. I'll get to them too, but funny guys. MS Dole 13 says, great news, my student loans were finally waived, all because of special COVID conditions for PSLF. I'm probably misunderstanding that abbreviation. I'm super happy and can finally breathe for the first time in years. It's such a relief to not have that burden. I cried. I'm super happy for you. I'm not sure exactly how that happened because most of the student loan debt is tied up in courts, but I love that it happened for you. Imagine if the millions of people who are looking forward to it actually get it. Imagine how grateful they would be to Democrats. So Democrats, please do progressive things that the American people love. The Freedom House 1984 says, every time Anna wears black, I think Catwoman. Interesting. Gouldy Cat Dragon D says, there's always enough money to reduce people to ash. Need health care? F off. Well, that's because corporations make money from war and corporations make money from denying you health care. That's the secret decoder ring. It works every time. You wanna know what's gonna pass in Washington? What they're gonna do? Where's the money? That's where they'll wind up 100% of the time. Mind Grifter says, they always come into the Sith Lord and the apprentice. To become a Sith Lord, you must destroy your master. That's exactly what Tucker Carlson was doing in regards to him copying both Trump and Bill O'Reilly's tactics. That comment about the Sith Lord rings really, really true, so nice job. In fact, Mind Grifter, if you're a member, $100 Blue Apron gift card, nice Star Wars reference and excellent analogy. Rewards at tyt.com to confirm that you're a member and get your reward. Says who says, oh, that's the other person in our member section. So Tucker's obsession with M&Ms goes back at least 20 years. Yeah, well, he did make his family did make a fortune in food, so maybe that's why he's obsessed. The Throat Goat Dragon made a great point about it, and it could apply to a couple of our stories. Joe Biden was literally called the senator from MBNA. MBNA was one of the biggest credit card companies, and Joe Biden was 100% in their pocket and did the bankruptcy bill that is part of the reason, by the way, that we can't get rid of student debt in the first place. The crime bill, Joe Biden. Anyway, they're all corrupt, but you'd never know that if you watch mainstream media. All right, back on TOT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. More news.
Update on the Norfolk Southern train derailment story. Let's do it.
Will you commit to compensating affected homeowners for their diminished property values?
Senator, I'm committing to do what's right.
Well, what's right is a family that had a home worth $100,000 that is now worth $50,000. We'll probably never be able to sell that home for $100,000 again. Will you compensate that family for that loss?
Senator, I'm committed to do what's right.
That is the right thing to do.
That's Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw refusing to commit to any concrete policies or action following the tragic train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. He's being grilled by Senator Ed Markey in that video. So the clip was from Shaw's appearance at a hearing by the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works today. Bernie Sanders also had some pretty tough questions for Shaw. Let's take a quick look at that.
The entire country, I think, was shocked to learn a number of months ago that your employees, rail workers who work in a dangerous job in all kinds of weather, had 0 paid sick days. Now, I know that is beginning to change, but I would ask you, given the fact that Norfolk Southern provided $10 billion in stock buybacks recently, can you tell the American people and your employees right now that in order to improve morale in your workforce, that you will guarantee at least 7 paid sick days to the 15,000 workers you employ?
Senator, with our latest agreement with our employees, which included a historic 24% wage increase and access to premium health care benefits, we immediately pivoted to talking to each of our local...
I've been deeply involved. I introduced the amendment on the floor. I know the issue. But what I'm asking you right now, you provided paid sick days to some of your employees. I got it. Thank you. Will you now do it what we get here in Congress?
Senator, I share your focus on our employees. I will commit to continuing to discuss with them important quality of life issues with our local craft colleagues.
In all due respect, you sound like a politician here, Mr. Shaw.
$10 billion in stock buybacks, but the CEO of Norfolk Southern was unwilling to commit to paying the people of East Palestine the difference in the value of their homes after the value drops as a result of that Norfolk Southern train derailing and poisoning their water with vinyl chloride and other chemicals. I mean, it's incredible, but that's what Alan Shaw is supposed to do. He's not a bug, he's a feature. This is how the system works. Profits over people, period. That is how it works. So you need politicians to regulate. You need a transportation department with a decent transportation secretary who actually wants to do his job. But we don't have that. We don't live in that country.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's a joke. First of all, Bernie Sanders saying, hey, you're gonna commit to more sick days. And he says, I'm gonna commit to continuing to discuss that.
Right.
Wow, what a commitment, okay.
It sounds like when politicians say, we're gonna form a commission to study the issue, right?
Which is a classic Biden move.
Right.
Now Buttigieg move at the transportation department to cover for this guy, okay? So look, citizens of East Palestine, Shaw and other executives in the railroad industry made a decision that they were going to cut costs in a number of ways. Brakes, safety provisions when carrying chemical hazards like the ones that blew up in your town.
Layoffs,
so there's less staff, less inspections, et cetera. And they did, they saved tons of money, and that's why they got $10 billion in buybacks from the profits that they made. That's a ton of money, right? And they just, as part of that calculation, they know that a certain percentage of accidents will happen. In fact, 818 derailments happened last year. In fact, a second derailment has already happened from the same company in Ohio.
That's right.
So they know that as a matter of their cost of doing business. But they have made an active decision to take some of those costs and put them on you. Oh, you lost half the value in your house? You'll never recover from that? Don't care. Now wait, how do they get away with that? Well, they get away with it by buying off the politicians. And they grease them. And guys, I got news for you. They grease Democrats and they grease Republicans. So I know that if you watch Fox News or MSNBC, you won't believe half of that story. But they all take giant campaign contributions from companies like Norfolk Southern, and none of them, Obama's, golly gee, I tried to regulate him but couldn't. Trump, I made sure I didn't regulate him. And Biden, I was thinking about regulating him for over 2 years and still haven't regulated him even after the accident. Well, go ahead, isn't that amazing? Both Republicans and Democrats agree, let's not regulate the companies giving us millions of dollars in campaign contributions. That's how you're getting screwed.
In the last election cycle, the midterm elections, Norfolk Southern specifically spent about $1.8 million on lobbying. About 500,000 of that money went toward Democratic politicians. Around 400,000 went to Republican politicians. Similar amount, because they got to grease both sides in order to ensure that they don't have to deal with regulations. I do want to go to the next video though, because Jeff Markey Merkley, Jesus Christ, why am I mixing up their names? Sorry about that. Jeff Merkley took Alan Shaw to task on the issue of stock buyback. So let's hear how that exchange went on.
In 2021, your company did $3.1 billion of stock buybacks. And in 2022, $3.4 billion of stock buybacks. And as of December, had another $7.5 billion available to do additional stock backs under the $10 billion stock buy plan. That's quite impressive numbers for any American company. It indicates massive profits. Will you pledge today that you will do no more stock buybacks until a raft of safety measures have been completed to reduce the risk of derailments and crashes in the future?
Senator, I will commit to continuing to invest in safety. We invest over $1 billion a year in safety.
You noted that you have a list of safety things you'd like to implement. Will you commit no more stock buybacks until those safety improvements are completed?
Senator, I will commit to continuing to invest in safety.
Look, I hate everybody, okay? I hate everybody. Everybody, like, will you commit? No, he won't commit. Have you been living under a rock? What is this? Will you pinky promise that you'll be a good boy? No, do your job. What is this?
Yeah, well, I don't know why we're having this conversation with this guy. Look, I don't want you to get me wrong. I'm glad that they're having hearings, and I'm glad that this is making news and it's drawing attention so you know how politics works, and that executives like Shaw are not being yelled at by the people above them. No, Shaw actually has bought most of the people in that room. This is all a joke, okay? So while I'm glad they're bringing attention, the few progressive senators, and by the way, you saw them right there. That's like 3 out of the only 4 progressive senators in the whole Senate, right? So that's Merkley, Markey, and Sanders, and you can say Elizabeth Warren, and that's about it, okay? Please don't talk to me about Sherrod Brown. Anyways, so the rest of them are completely owned by the industry. That's why we're having this nonsensical hearing about where senators say pretty please to their boss, hey, pretty please, will you spend money to protect the American people? The answer is a F no. No, of course not, they're not gonna do it. If we had a real functioning Senate, they wouldn't be asking the question. They'd be like, these are the regulations, you're gonna protect the citizens, and we're not having a goddamn conversation about it. Violate the regulations and you will go to jail. The right-wing voters in East Palestine, doesn't that make sense? To protect you, please. Regulations are the same thing as laws to protect you.
So we've got one more video that I really want to get to, but before we do, I think it's important to talk about what Congress has done and what the Transportation Secretary of Transportation Department alleges they're doing. So there has been a bipartisan effort in the Senate to do something to bolster, safety protocols when it comes to these rail companies. A bipartisan group of senators introduced legislation this month to improve safety in the freight rail industry. The bill would create new safety rules for all trains carrying hazardous materials and increases penalties for safety violations. Its sponsors include Senators J.D. Vance of Ohio, Sherrod Brown of Ohio, and John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Now, it's a proposal. We'll see where it goes. I mean, it could be that they propose something as this story's hot, and as soon as everyone's focused on something else, the bill fails or doesn't go anywhere. Let's see where it goes, okay? Now, Shaw said Norfolk Southern supports certain provisions in the bill, but stopped short of endorsing the legislation in its entirety. Quote, we are committed to the legislative intent to the rails to make rail safer, he said. Norfolk Southern runs a safe railroad. What, are you kidding me right now? Runs a safe railroad, and it is my commitment to improve that safety and make our safety culture the best in the industry. I mean, the guy is insulting us right now. And he also insulted Congress by refusing to answer what Norfolk Southern did with all that waste from the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Let's watch what his answer was for that.
Well, we've got reports that East Liverpool in Ohio is receiving this waste from East Palestine that has been disposed of. Is that accurate?
Senator, standing here today, I don't know if that's accurate as of this time.
So do you know where the waste is going to then?
It is We're in the process of working with the EPA on a number of facilities.
So we haven't identified where it's moving to yet.
Senator, we're in the process of working with the EPA on a number of facilities.
Where's the waste going? Like, what's really happening with the waste? You're gonna destroy another community?
By the way, they blew up the waste, and they said they had to do that for safety reasons.
No, they didn't.
But it turns out, of course, no, they just want to keep the rail going. They were losing money. So they probably made it way more dangerous by blowing it up on purpose. But the money, they need the money, right? So look, right-wing voters, we're trying to protect you. You lost half the value of your homes, let alone the health and safety risks. Demand that your politicians, your representatives actually protect you. They have $10 billion sitting there. They're spitting in your face by not doing the safety regulations or compensating you for your loss. And by the way, JD Vance, my ass. I would be shocked if they passed that bill and it had actual safety regulations. JD Vance loves corporate rule. So this is, and the Democrats aren't any better. We got that Buttigieg clip?
We do, let's go to it.
Let's watch Buttigieg.
Today, we are pushing forward a 3-part drive on rail safety. Things that we're doing at the Department of Transportation to raise the bar, things that we need help from Congress to do in order to hold rail companies accountable, and things that this industry needs to do differently. For example, we are advancing the requirement on 2-person crews on trains. Believe it or not, the rail industry has been pushing to be allowed to have trains have only 1 human being on board. Under the Obama administration, a rule went into effect calling for a stronger type of tank car to be fully rolled out across the industry by 2025. That got pushed back by an act of Congress to 2029. And calling on Congress to work with us to move that date back up, but also the rail industry can do that without us making them, and I hope they will make that change while we simultaneously work on the regulation.
So
you're transportation secretary, you've been transportation secretary for 2 years. 2 years, he's talking about what the Trump administration did. What have you done? What have you done? I really hope that they make changes without us forcing them to. I mean, garbage, garbage. Come for me, Buttigieg supporters, you support garbage.
When someone says, we hope the industry will do something on their own, that means they're getting legally bribed by that industry.
100%.
Okay, that means they're not going to do anything and they're gonna totally screw over the citizens. The Republicans and the Democrats agree, corporate rule is awesome and we're all gonna get screwed. Drop this nonsense. If you watch MSNBC, the Democrats are here to protect you. They serve their donors 100%. Stop believing the garbage lies. And if you're a Republican, you believe Fox News that Republicans and Trump are here to protect you? No, Trump did the biggest tax cut for the rich. He totally deregulated this industry. They're all screwing you for the millions of dollars they're getting in campaign contributions and actual jobs when they leave office. It's so obvious. The whole country, stop listening to corporate media, snap out of it and fight back for your rights. All right, we have a great post game for you guys. tyt.com/join to become a member and get the extra bonus episode. We'll see you there.
Hey everyone, Matteo Scarapo here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with